you be the imam when you are 47 or 46 or 45 and you don't have a child yet? You don't have a son yet. Because they knew that the imams were going to be, lineage, the son from another son from another son. Until finally, Imam Jawad alayhi salam was born, and I believe in the year around 195, I believe. He was born after Hijrah, and Imam Rida alayhi salam began to speak very highly of this newborn child. That there is no child born with so much barakah and blessings as Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And today, many of our scholars believe if you want the blessings of Allah, especially if you want the blessings of the dunya, then do tawassul to Abu Ja'far al-Thani, Imam Jawad alayhi salam. So this is something that we learn as he's, one of the gateways, as Imam Qadim alayhi salam's grandfather is the gateway to, Allah's hawa'ij being answered, Bab al-hawa'ij. Imam Rida alayhi salam, his father, was known to, be so kind to the poor and to the miskeen and to those that needed assistance. Imam Jawad alayhi salam was in the same way. And those who are fortunate to visit him in Qadhimain in Baghdad, they understand, how Allah gives them inayat and intention when they go and perform the ziyarah. So we look at the time of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, we see two groups of people. Even some say, some family members of him disbelieved in him because of his young age. Yet we see some, like his great uncle Ali ibn Ja'far on one side, and some say Abdullah ibn Musa, which led and led astray himself in a group and said, I'm not going to follow Muhammad ibn Ali. I'm not going to follow him. I'm going to follow, he became a Waqafi and he started causing others to stop the imamat with Imam Jawad alayhi salam. He didn't accept him. So therefore you see that there's two lines during the time of Imam Jawad. The line that they believed in him, even though he was like 7, 8 at the age of imamat, and the line that couldn't accept a child imam. And for us it is a question too. Even though we have been taught as Shias, as followers of Ahlul Bayt, to believe in imams, but it is a difficult test that a child now becomes the imam. And tonight, this is the topic that we're going to talk about, is how can I recognize the imam of the age? How can I learn from the story of Imam Jawad alayhi salam, and how I can be like Ali ibn Ja'far, in old, he was the son of Imam al-Sadiq, so like great uncle of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. He's teaching in Medina, he has students, he's a well-known scholar, and he sees this young son come, this young child come and enter. He stands up, he kisses him, shows respect, even though Ali ibn Ja'far is at a very old age. So much so that the students and people around him are now scolding Ali ibn Ja'far and saying, why are you giving so much respect? And he mentions that, it is Allah who has chosen him. It's Allah who has chosen this beard not to be, qualified for imamat, but has chosen him to be qualified for imamat. So therefore, one group during the time of Imam Jawad are the likes of Ali ibn Ja'far. Others are like some of the other sons of the imams that did not believe in that. So what can we do? How can you recognize the imam of the age? Which is an important story, lesson from the life of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Well, one way that I would like to address the question of age, before I've given speeches about Imam Jawad alayhi salam in the center, one of the explanations is what? How can I answer on why Imam Jawad is allowed to be an imam at a young age? One is the example of Prophet Yahya. He was given the hukm as a sabi, as a child. Very clear. So if Prophet Yahya can be given the hukm, why can't Imam Jawad be given the hukm or being given imamat, for example? The second example that I gave was that God mentions Awha Rabbuk, Allah gave inspiration to the nahl, to the bee. Did you ever follow bees around or watch like a honeycomb be formed by bees? Inshallah, you won't be stung by them. You can just watch them online. And you see how these guys go and grab honey, from the trees and stuff. And I'm assuming bees are stinging. I guess they're just immune to those stings after, that becomes your livelihood in your work. So you look how fascinating this honeycomb is. And Allah mentions like to go to the mountains and take the mountains as a home for yourselves. So who taught that bee? Really think of it. The architecture, the design, that honeycomb is so beautiful. And not only that, then Allah mentions in the same verse, that or the next verse of the same verse, that from the butun, of the stomachs of this bee, what does it come? Asal, honey comes, which is a shafa, which is a cure. So right now, imagine engineers, designers want to get, nectar or get pollen and they do that whole process. Would honey come out with all its nutrients, with all its qualities that you can have unlimited shelf life almost. Leave it out. You can try it and next shahadat of Imam Jawad alayhi salam will ask you, leave your honey out 1 year. Do you see any difference? You give it to me, I'll eat it. There's no problem. Or 10 years, or 100 years, or 1,000 years. Or in traditional medicine, when somebody was injured, they would put honey on that wound. What would happen? Scientists say that it takes that moisture out of that wound. Why? Because moisture is what causes infections. And then when you get cut, they say don't let the water hit it. That's one of the reasons. And we say, do tayammum. That's one of the reasons. Why? Because water causes infections after. You can cause or promote infections. It doesn't cause but can promote infections. So therefore, honey is a shafa. Honeycombs are homes of bees. But question, did bees go to bee school? Did they have a muallim? Did they have a teacher? Teaching them like, go to these flowers, don't go to those. Design it this way. No, it says, oh Allah, oh how Rabbuk. Allah did wahi. So last year we said, one of the proofs of Imam Jawad's imamat is that if Allah can give a bee knowledge and train him and teach him how to make honey and how to make a house, can Allah not give a human being knowledge? So of course. The third way I want to answer the question of imamat of Imam Jawad at a young age is sometimes he was asked this question himself at a young age, around the age of 9. One of the historians say at the age of 9, a person comes and asks Imam Jawad about his imamat. It's interesting to hear the answer from himself, from the tradition from himself. And he quotes a verse of Quran, Surah Yusuf 108. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. This is my way, Allah says. Say, Rasulullah, Prophet, say, this is my way. I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me. I, the Prophet, and those who follow me. Then he asks, what is the age of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam when he was following Rasulullah, when he believed in Rasulullah? What age was he? Some say at the age, in the tradition says, my age, 9. Amir al-Mu'mineen was 9 when he believed in Rasulullah. I was 9. There's different versions of the age of Imam Ali, but around that, say 9, 10, around that age. And some say the reason why this is a good proof in a way that, one of the historians was saying that this is one of the ways that Imam Jawad is promoting another side of the fada'il, and we're getting close to Qadir. The virtues of Amir al-Mu'mineen is this. Did you ever think of the iman of Imam Ali before he was 9? What kind of faith was that? Some of the Ahlul Sunnah, they disqualify that faith. They say it was the belief because the tradition they have too. The saying is the first Muslim, the first one to have Islam was Ali alayhi salam, right? So they try to disqualify that and say that is the iman of a child. It doesn't count. So the other one, for example, the others, are qualified for that. Well, we look at the iman of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and we see actually, if you want to understand Imam Ali's imamat, you should understand or his knowledge of the unseen and his knowledge of of prophethood before he was, an adult, you have to study the life of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Because Imam Ali alayhi salam is mentioned that he had belief in the Prophet before he was a prophet. It wasn't as if he became Muslim after Bi'atha, for example, after the commencement of the mission. He believed in Rasulullah before. And how he himself mentions or said about him that he smelled the fragrance of prophethood. That the Prophet told him that you hear what I hear. When he heard the revelation that Ali alayhi salam also hears. So this was the iman and faith of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that if you were to ask him any question, then he would answer it. Just how Imam Jawad alayhi salam would mention that whoever has a question, whoever wants to challenge me, whoever has a debate, I will win them in debate. Even as, for example, some of the jurists, chief of jurists, and the chief of the Qudat, then some of the debates that I mentioned, last year that he would have. Ibn Aktham, for example, and Imam Jawad alayhi salam destroyed him in debate when it came to jurisprudence at a young age. So this is one of the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen, that he believed in Rasulullah, not with, trying to understand and get proof or see a miracle and then believe. That he had iman in Rasulullah while he was a child. From the beginning he had iman. Why? Because Allah gives knowledge to bees if He wants to. Allah gives knowledge to children if He wants to, if they're imams. And this also shows that imams had knowledge even before their imamat. Even before the imamat. The interesting thing is, to add to this, just the beauty of studying the life of A'imma alayhim salam and seeing if Ahlul Sunnah also have these traditions. Look at Hadith al-Nur, the Hadith of light, the Hadith that Ali and I were light thousands of years before the creation of Adam. Ali alayhi salam and the Prophet were light and Nur thousands of years before Prophet Adam. Mir Hamid Hussain al-Laknawi in the book of Abaqat al-Anwar, which is an Indian scholar, one of the greatest books, they say, about the Fada'il of Imam Ali, is written by an Indian scholar by the name of Mir Hamid Hussain al-Laknawi. In Abaqat al-Anwar, he brings one volume, and I have it, Hadith al-Nur. One volume. Hadith al-Nur, that Ali alayhi salam and the Prophet were light thousands of years before Prophet Adam. From how many Sunni sources? Around 50 Sunni sources he uses that they have in their books that Ali alayhi salam was a light and Nur before the creation of Adam alayhi salam. So therefore we understand this. If you want to understand Imam Jawad and the Fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen that he's bringing, is that Imamat has three core components. One is knowledge from God, and it makes sense. Because if a successor of the final religion is going to be a true successor and going to protect the message of Rasulullah, he has to have knowledge from God. Or else it could be changed, or else he could forget. And then what do? This is the last religion. Another prophet cannot come. So he must have knowledge from God. 2, he must be appointed by God. 3, he must be infallible. Because if he makes mistakes, if he, God forbid, sins or makes mistakes, the final religion will not be preserved. So imamat means these 3 conditions. One of them is that knowledge is from God. It does not matter. The imams did not study. Our ulama and scholars study. Many Ahlul Sunnah come and they visit our imams. They respect them. They love them. They get their hawaij from them. But if you look at one of the conditions in some of the ziyarat, it says visit the imams with ma'rifah. Visit the imams with knowledge. What kind of knowledge is it? Not just I love the imam. Not that I respect the imam, but I know you are chosen by God. I know you have knowledge by God. And I know you are infallible, therefore I must obey you. This is the difference between visiting an imam just because he's Ahlul Bayt, which is good, and we welcome them. So welcome to the shrine of Imam Rida. You'll see many people sometimes from Kurdistan, which is the Sunni area in Iran. You see sometimes caravans go to Mashhad, the city where Imam Rida is born. You see people from Pakistan, India, they're Ahlul Sunnah, they come and do ziyarat. As I mentioned, Ibn Hibban, they come Faqih Khurasan. He would come and do ziyarat of Imam Rida. Don't listen to all this propaganda from the Wahhabis and Salafis to say that no, it's not allowed to do ziyarat. Your ulama did ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt and got hawa'ij from them. So let's look at the life of Imam Jawad and answer this question as to how can I know now the Imam of the age? Many people ask me, because we said we want to learn this lesson that there is division. There's a group of people that were led astray by one test, and that was age. And that means they really didn't understand Imamah, right? If age causes you not to believe in the Imamah of Imam Jawad, then it means you didn't understand that knowledge is not studied knowledge. That knowledge must come from God. You didn't understand that. So how can we understand the Imam of our age? How can we understand the Imam of the time? I'm going to give you 3 ways tonight that we can learn from Imam Jawad alayhi salam, the stories from Ahlul Bayt, how to recognize the Imam. Some people ask this question. See, usually when we went from one Imam to another Imam, the previous Imam would appoint. We had traditions by name. The Imams had names and we'd know their names. Therefore, there was no, if you had the traditions, if you had the hadith, generally there was no way you could make a mistake. Usually, especially if you were close to the Imams, they would tell you the name. They would show you who the next Imam is. But for us, when we're waiting for the zuhur of the Imam of our time, how can we recognize him? How do we know it's him? Yes, we know his name. Yes, we know the name of his father. But maybe it's possible somebody would say, I am him. I am the son of Imam Hassan Askar alayhi salam, and become phony, for example, phony one. How do we know what is right? These are three things that came to my mind. The first thing is by mind, by Quran, by hadith, by understanding the qualities of the Imam, understanding the personality of the Imam, understanding the parents of the Imam. Our hadith are rich in identifying who Imam Mahdi Ajallahu Ta'ala Fajrul Sharif is. So one way is by Quran, by the hadith. We have around 100 verses about Imam Mahdi in the Quran with his ta'wil. We have so many narrations about the signs that are mahtum, the signs that are hatmi, that are going to happen before the zuhur of the Imam of the age. Right? You can study those signs that are mahtum, hatmi. You have the Quran and hadith. It will guide you to the name of the Imam, the attributes of the Imam, the characteristics of the Imam, the behavior of the Imam. So it helps you identify him. So if somebody doesn't have these characteristics, you know it's not the Imam of the age. Or if you know, for example, these mahtum signs didn't happen, you know it's not time for dhuhur yet, for example. So Quran and hadith will guide you. 2, what else guides us? How else can we know it is the Imam of the age? We understand that this very famous verse that Allah says to the Prophet that you cannot guide whoever you like or love. That is Allah, the one who guides. Allah guides. Even the Prophet does not guide. Allah guides. What does this mean? We understand it this way. That the concept of hidayah, the concept of guidance, divine guidance, is up to Allah, is up to God. Did you ever see some people, you introduce Islam to them very, maybe briefly, maybe very simply, and they want to believe, they're interested, and later on they become Muslim. Another person, sometimes good friend, sometimes family members, you give them all the books from all our philosophical and theological books, everything we know, you throw out at them, and still they don't want to believe. Why? Because Allah guides. That guidance, the fact that you're here, you're in belief, you're in iman, it was not up to you. God forbid, it's not that necessarily the demonstrations you have are very, very strong, or the proof you have is very, very strong. The fact that you're here is Allah guided you. Yes, you have proofs for this, but if Allah wanted to and put a barrier between your heart, God forbid, we would lose our iman, right? So because guidance is from God, just how you are guided, say, to the center, guided to masjid, guided to salat, if you are good, and you are good brothers and sisters, Allah will not allow you to see the Imam of the age doing the dhuhur, to see him and to be far away from him, for you to reject him. Because rejecting him at that time, who was the sign of God, is equal to damnation, is equal to going to hell. Allah will not allow the good people to go to hell, right? The good people that deserve. That's why we say this about guidance. God causes guidance, but not randomly. Not how we do it like istikhara or for you flip a coin. It is by the behavior of the people, by the qualifications of the people. If they qualify for this, Allah will give them hidayah. If they're good people, then Allah has verses of the Quran that God does not guide the dhalimeen. To those who do evil, to those who do dhulm, God doesn't guide them. So the second step is being muttaqi, relying on Allah, attaching ourselves to Allah and the rope of Allah and asking and begging. Sometimes our scholars would beg for this guidance and ask the 14 and swear by the 14 ma'sumin infallible that when I leave my house and I'm going to come back to my house, do not allow me to become a disbeliever. There are friends that you might have in Southern California that you knew them before and they were very pious, very religious before, right? And what happens after many years? So this guidance is from Allah. And why Allah is watching you, but it relies on our behavior. It's nothing, Allah does not do something randomly. Allah does not do something, in terms of chaos. Everything Allah does is with a plan. And He gives guidance for reasons. The third, I have some interesting hadith for you tonight, that is this concept called Ma'rifatul Imam Binuraniya. Anyone hear of this concept? Understanding Imam with light. Understanding the Imam with light. Now, I don't want you to say, we're arifs or we're, people that have now see things with our heart after, but it is in stages and it does exist. And this is the third stage. That al-mu'min yanduru binurillah. The mu'min, Shia, Sunni have this hadith. That the believer sees with the light of Allah. I'm going to give you a nice story and tradition that sheds light. I gave other stories about this in like the book of Qaybat al-Nu'mani, about some of the brothers from Yemen, some of the pious people from Yemen, identifying Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam just by their heart. Just by their heart. So what I'm trying to say is there's a third tool, recognizing the Imam of the age. And if he is in front of you right now, for example, if he is in this center, in this majlis, or if we're able to, see him and your hearts were not blurred, and the tool of your heart's work and it would see and hear, you would be able to identify him, be able to know something is different about him. Now, there's stages about this. Sometimes we're at, very weak stages where you go to a place for ziyarat and you feel good. You feel that there's somebody important buried here, right? You feel different. And that's a feeling that you have. Or in Shahr Ramadan, maybe you feel different, like Laylatul Qadr, it feels cool for you. The traditions have this. How do you know it's Laylatul Qadr? Says the night of Qadr is cool. And I don't think it's like temperature. But then people would find out Laylatul Qadr by temperature. But it's feel cool. Maybe you feel it. The person who is closer to God. So the person comes to, this tradition is narrated by Qutb al-Rawandi and Abu Basir. دخلت المسجد مع أبي جعفر عليه السلام. This is Imam Baqir. I entered the mosque with Imam Baqir عليه السلام. While people were going and coming, وَالنَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ وَيَخْرُجُونَ, and people were going and exiting. It was crowded masjid. There the Imam had a test, wanted to show something in this tradition. Interesting. He says, سَلَ النَّاسِ هَلْ يَرَوْنَنِي. He says, ask the people, Abu Basir, ask the people, do they see me? Imam Baqir alayhi salam. Ask them, do they see me? It was crowded. So he says, so everyone I met, I asked them, because it's crowded, have you seen Abu Ja'far? Have you seen Abu Ja'far? They would say, no, we haven't seen him. Then it says, حَتَّى دَخَلَ أَبُو هَارُونَ الْمَكْفُوفِ. What's al-makfuf in Arabic? Blind. The Abu Harun who was blind. Now the blind person comes and he asks him, do you see the Imam? Do you see Abu Ja'far? And he says, أَلَيْسَ هُوَ بِقَائِمٍ? Is he the one who's standing? And he is surprised, Abu Basir says, قُلْتُ وَمَا عِلْمُكَ قال وكيف لا أعلم وهو نور ساطع. How could I not know when he is a radiant light? اللهم صل على محمد. So Abu Harun al-Makfuf sees Imam Baqir alayhi salam, but not how we are saying. We're saying Ma'rifatul Imam bin Nuraniya, seeing the Imam with Nuraniya. And we have repetitively traditions like this, stories like this in our books, that the Imam is not hidden from you. You are hidden from the Imam. And this is sadness for us. It means that our hearts are so polluted. Our hearts are the sight of our eyes is so blurred because of the dunya, because of our actions, that we cannot see. And that is a sacrifice. Every time I'm saying this to myself, that you turn to dunya, you turn to haram, you turn to wastefulness. Every time is a sacrifice because you're giving up that ability to see and to taste Islam and be able to benefit from Islam for some things that are useless in life. Some material things. It's a cost. Is it worth it or not? I'm telling myself this. Then, interesting, I want to continue the story because now it's going to show you how beautiful Imamat is for us. So the Abu Harun can see the Imam with the heart. But now let's see from this tradition what the Imam sees. Now the tradition continues, but now what does Imam see? Then he said, I heard him say, a man from Africa. He said, how is Rashid, this person from Africa, how is Rashid? To another man who obviously came from there. And the man says, I left him alive and well, and he sends you his greetings. Then the Imam mentions to him, Rahimahullah, Allah have mercy on him. He says, he's good. He says, no, he has passed away. The man asks, he has died? This person from the people of Africa, man from Africa, he says, yes. He says, Na'am, he's died. He says, Wamata, when? He's surprised. He knew, Rashid. He said that he replied, 2 days after your departure. Imam Baqir was teaching him, 2 days after your departure, he left. He passed away. The man says, by Allah, he was not sick, nor did he have any illness. Then the Imam mentions those who die, not only die from sickness and illness, there's other causes. Then he says, they asked, here he says, who was this man? This Rashid, who was he? He said he was a man who was loyal and loving towards us. He was a good person, so the Imam knew him. And then he says, to Imam Baqir, the tradition says, if you think that we do not have watching eyes or hearing eyes among you, then it says, لَبِئْسَ مَا رَأَيْتُمْ. What a bad thing it is, you think. If you think we don't see you, if you don't think we hear about you, then what a bad thing, especially Shia, followers of Ahlul Bayt, that we are watching you, we are seeing you, Imam Baqir. If you don't have this belief, it's a bad thing you're believing. It says, وَاللَّهِ لَا يَخْفَى عَلَيْنَا شَيْءٌ مِّنْ أَعْمَالِكُمْ. I swear by Allah, nothing from your deeds, from what you do, is hidden from us. We are watching you. فَاحْذِرُونَا جَمِيلًا. So present to us beautiful deeds. Show off in front of your Imam. Show off in front of Imam Mahdi. Allow him to see that you don't have much, you can't afford much, but you give that to somebody else. You don't have, you sacrifice. You don't have much time, but you give that time to somebody, you're in a rush. Sacrifice for yourself. Present to the Imam something beautiful. Present, they're watching you. The Imam of the day is watching. And God forbid if we do haram. God forbid if we do something bad. Then we're presenting to the Imam something that upsets him. And how much pain and agony does he already have during the time of ghaibat? When the actions that they're performing, the killing our mujtahideen, killing our sadat, killing, attacking schools during this time. Even recently, I told you, the educational ministry mentioned 200 schools, 20 of them damaged, above 80, 90 in these strikes, 8%. Recent New York Times also did a study and said 20 schools were hit, 20 schools. Now, this isn't something new. There are 20 schools in Iran. If you look at Lebanon, same thing. The schools are, if you ask the Lebanese. If you look in Gaza, same thing. So about hitting hospitals and schools. فَاحْذِرُونَا جَمِيلًا وَعَوِّدُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ الْخَيْرِ. and accustom yourselves for goodness. وَكُونُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ تُعْرَفُونَ بِهِ, and be amongst its people, you are known by it. So for indeed, this is what I command my children and my followers with. So from this story from Imam Bagha alayhi salam, we talked about this third tool that Allah has given us, is that we can be able to see the Imam, sense the Imam to some percentage, some degree. Even, the story that they asked Allama Tabatabai, and says some of these Imams are the children of the Imams. How do you know they're real? I know we have thousands of, say, Imams others in Iran. How do you know it's real, authentic, or he's a good person? He says, see how you feel. What is your feeling when you go to the shrine? What kind of feeling do you have? So we do have this level, but we have to, inshallah, these three things, increase it so we can guarantee ourselves that we will be a soldier of the Imam of the age. One, we said that knowledge of the book and Sunnah, Hadith, and the Quran, if you know these signs, then there's less of a chance you'll be led astray during the time of the Dhuhr, inshallah. Two, taqwa. As long as you have piety, as long as you have husnul aqaba, good end to your life, Allah won't allow you to make a mistake and miss your Imam. And three, ma'rifatul Imam bin Nuraniyah, that there are those who live, and the tradition says they live, but the ghaybat of the Imam is like hudur for them, is like presence, because they feel the presence, they see the light of the Imam of the age, which allows us, this is encouragement, that there's so many levels of hidayah, so many stages out there that it encourages us to reach a higher stage. Maybe one day we will be like those, like the story of this blind person, Abu Harun al-Makfuf, that here he was blind, but he saw the Imam of the age. Maybe one day we can become like this. But my recommendation from the Shahadat of Imam Jawad, present to the Imams Jameel, good actions, inshallah. We'll dim the lights and do tawassul to Imam Jawad, inshallah. May Allah have rahmat and mercy to Sayyidah Aliyah Husseini, inshallah. Imam Rida alayhi salam is talking to Imam Jawad. You know, Imam Rida really loves his son, Imam Jawad. But Imam Jawad here is very lonely. He had a wife who poisoned him. He's very lonely. It says, my father narrated to me, and the story has Zakir ibn Adam, a great scholar, Bair ibn Qum, narrated to me. I was with Imam Rida alayhi salam when Abu Ja'far was brought in, and his age was less than 4. Now this is a story about Imam Jawad, how Imam Rida alayhi salam loved them so much at the age of less than 4. It says, فَضَرَبَ بِيَدِهِ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ وَرَفَعَ رَأْسَهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَأَطَالَ الْفِكْرِ. Imam Jawad is less than 4, but we said his ma'rifah, his understanding, do not look at his age, is more higher ma'rifah than adults. He is striking his hand on the ground. He raised his head to the sky. He remained deep in thought for a long time. What is Imam Jawad? A child of Ahlul Bayt, an Imam thinking at the age of 4. This is what we should be thinking, but we don't. Then Imam Rida alayhi salam said to him, may I be your ransom? What has occupied your thought for so long? He said here, Fima Sonia bi Ummi Fatima alayhi salam. I'm thinking about what happened to my mother Fatima to Zahra. Imam Jawad at the age of 4 is striking the ground, putting his hands on the sky, and thinking about the shahadat and martyrdom of his mother Fatima to Zahra. What did they do to her, Sayyidah Fatima? That after over 100 years after martyrdom, her children are thinking, what did they do to our mother? How they attacked her house, squished her between, pressed her against the door and wall. Then the Imam says, by Allah, I will bring them out of their graves. Imam Jawad is saying, he's promising them, I will bring them out of their graves, then I will burn them, then scatter their ashes, then I will completely annihilate them in the sea. Then Imam Rida alayhi salam heard this and says, Bi abi anta wa ummi anta laha ya'ni al-imama. You deserve imama, because you have tabarri and tawalli, love of Sayyidah Fatima and hatred of her enemies. You deserve imamat. But Imam Jawad, How lonely were you when they poisoned you? Usually, when somebody is at their home and they're in pain, they ask for the wife, they ask for the household for help. But Imam Jawad, alayhi salam, how qareeb were you? Your father had passed away. You were at the home of your enemy. Your wife was your enemy. She was the one who poisoned you, Fadl. And imagine closing the doors so nobody can hear the pains and nobody can hear the agony of Imam Jawad al-Aimma. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, increase the love of Sayyidah Fatima in our hearts, inshallah. Increase our hatred for the enemies of Sayyidah Fatima in our hearts, inshallah. Ya Allah, give us ma'rafatul Imam bin Nuraniya. Allow us to see our Imam with our hearts, inshallah. Give us true piety that will be never led astray. Give us knowledge of the Kitab and Sunnah, inshallah, and the Hadith. Ya Allah, help all the mu'mineen, all of those who are standing and resisting, inshallah. Give them victory throughout the entire world. Have mercy upon all of our marhumeen, especially Sayyidah Aliyah Husseini, and to all of the shuhada of Muqawama, inshallah, and expedite the return of the Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.